So today I'm going to throw a donut, which is a double-walled vessel. And I'm doing this as a request from the advanced students that wanted to see how to approach making a hollow form that's completely sealed. And normally you use the donut form for handles and also for decoration and sculpturally. You see a lot of this type of work in Greek art and in Italian art currently. So a toroid is a double-walled vessel, and I'll go through the steps, where it wraps itself and seals, and you have a hollow tube of air inside of it. Then you make an incision somewhere to let the air out. But a lot of clay artists historically have used them in the form of attaching them to other sculptures and other thrown forms for handles, lids, or just straight decoration. So it's more of an advanced technique. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to center like normal, but similar to the plate, I'm going to center a little bit flatter. And in the ceramic career, as I've been teaching students to throw, we were going to break a couple of the rules, a little bit more on this. The toroid, when we open it up, we're going to open all the way to the bottom. We're going to completely open that up. So again, I'm going to center similar to a plate, a little bit flatter and wider. So at this point, just recompressing the edge, or recentering the edge as we go. I'm going to open, but it's going to open all the way to the bat. And end up with almost like a tire shape. And that's how I'm going to start. Now, the middle, I usually remove because later on it saves me on trimming. And as you're working out in this area, you can recenter the piece if it's going off kilter a little bit, which sometimes you get these bats that are a little bit uneven. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it, and you can see that it's now a hollow tire. And there's a band of clay, no clay in the middle, and then no clay on the edge. So from here, I start making a trench in the middle. So I'm opening it up in two sections. And you got to be careful, you don't want to go all the way to the bottom to where you're hitting the wood bat again. So when I get to this point where I have these two walls, then you focus on one or the other as you're shaping. Okay. Again, I'm going to clean the middle a little bit more. And you can, of course, always check with the needle tool at the very bottom. So right now it's about 1/4 of an inch in from the bottom. So I'm going to trim this like I normally trim a plate or any other, or bowls, but mostly like a plate. So I'm going to trim the excess weight off later, but I still need a little bit of even thinness. Now I'm going to pull and stretch the outer wall. And this is a way to make a double-walled vessel. If I had left the middle into a mound of clay and centered it, and then made this ring on the outside, I could make a chip and dip set that way too. Okay. Then I'm going to put my fingers inside, and I'm going to stretch the middle out. And you're going to end up with this open space. And then I'm going to curl it out a little bit, and make a curve. Just like that. So at this point I have two walls with a space in between them, and then the middle's gone. So now I'm going to compress these together. So all I'm going to do is squeeze inward with my hand. My right hand is the support, and you'll start seeing the walls work together. Now what has happened is you have now captured the air inside. That's why the piece won't collapse. The air inside is pushing back, and making almost a sealed balloon. And you can shape this any way you want. I always comment, at this point, that's when they start reminding me of donuts. Versus more of air-filled tire. So now what I'm doing with this finger is I'm pushing down. These two are holding the sides, and I'm compressing this to create the shape I want. And I'm compressing the way I push them together, that way they don't pop apart. But like I said, I'm going to turn this into a piece that I'm going to hang on a wall in a minute. So from here, it's normal cleanup, just like any piece that you make, a bowl, a cup, a cylinder, a vase. I'm going to cut off my excess piece of clay to save me trimming later. That way I don't have to trim as much off. I'm going to remove that extra little piece of clay, that ribbon of clay, just like normal. And sometimes I cut a ribbon on the inside, but on this one it's thin enough I'm not going to. I'm going to, of course, cut it from the bat. Now, you can do a lot of things with this shape once you have it trimmed. You can cut it and make it into a handle that's hollow. You could cut it here and here and leave 3/4 of it and make it the top of a really large jar. You can also, if you're making pictures about this tall, make this really ornate handle that's hollow. That lightens the handle, by the way, if you're working with a thicker handle. Now, what I do is, you have to have a needle hole somewhere for release to let the air out so it doesn't explode. Okay. So, and I already mentioned, I normally make these into wall pieces. So I usually put my needle tool in, and then I wiggle it to start tearing a hole into it. And then I just reach in there with my finger, any of my fingers, and tear an opening in the front and make it look like a torn opening. So it looks like a blown tire that's been on the I-60 around here, in the heat. Then later on, after I trim this, similar to my masks, there's going to be a hanging system on the back. I'll hang this way on the wall, and then because it's sealed, other than here, I can pour water into this part like a little canteen and have my flowers right here sticking out and have this on the wall around my house. That's what I usually use them for, are wall flower hangers. Okay, so that's a toroid, otherwise known as throwing a double-walled vessel or a donut.